Hi, I'm Leila Schroeder. In 1998, I thought it was only the small minority language groups which were marginalized with no Bibles. Since then, however, I've facilitated literacy interventions in 9 African countries working with large language groups. I was stunned at the roadblocks to reading that I encountered. The first language group I'll talk about are the Oromo speakers living in Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia. There are approximately 10 million speakers of Oromo, according to UNESCO. This map shows the cross-border distribution. The language and its variants have 5 vowel phonemes, both long and short. In 1967, a Bible for the Borana in Ethiopia was produced with Amharic script. Alphabetic writing has overtaken that usage, though, even in Ethiopia, and a revised Borana Bible with alphabetic writing would be readable on both sides of the border. In Kenya alone, Borana's number over 1 million. I found signs of an orthography problem immediately upon arrival, though the Borana Bible had already been in print for 16 years, the one that is in alphabetic script in Kenya. Even leaders of the biggest Borana church in Kenya complained that the Bible was difficult to read. Borana people, even the most prominent elder of the local Anglican church, told me in 2015 that the Bible was very awkward sounding and hard to understand. The phonology of Borana, which I knew a little bit about, led me to ask some more questions. All word final syllables in Borana end with a vowel sound. Why then did I run across words without vowel letters at the end in the writing? What's going on here then, I said. I noticed that both nouns and verbs were written as you see here quite commonly. People said, well, we have voiceless vowels. Can't you hear them? We don't need to write them. They're just whispered. The speakers of the language felt that since Borana children speak the language and also use voiceless vowels, they would simply supply the missing vowel themselves. Look at the next slide to see if these 5 voiceless vowels are predictable so they don't need to be written. You'll see that there's ode and oda, ode and ode, ode and odi. Okay, this is just one example from one root word. Borana suffixes give essential information. When a contrast is lost, a lot of meaning is lost. One Bible translator determined all of the writing rules for Borana language, and he did not choose to write the voiceless vowels. Let's read the words ending in voiced vowels and their meanings. Will there be just one voiceless vowel which reveals an additional meaning for all of the voiceless ones? I wondered, so I called a Borana friend, a teacher, and this is the information he gave me. All 5 of these verbs with voiceless suffixes were written the same, ode, in the current Borana Bible. But those whispers are not mute, nor are they predictable. If just the 5 whispered vowels are simply unwritten, you can see here that 5 meaning contrasts of a total of 10 are lost to the reader. Note the importance of the voiceless ones heretofore unwritten. He suckles, he has suckled. You should nurse, I suckle, and the imperative, nurse. The voiced ones actually seem more predictable and less important because 3 of those are actually questions. Since the current Borana Bible does not represent voiceless vowels at all, The potential for reader frustration or comprehension errors is surely significant. We know just from this example. We know that present declarative third person is not represented, past declarative third person, subjunctive instructive tense, present declarative and stative command nurse is not represented. Voiceless vowels were recently written with a superscript line in published trial literacy materials for a curriculum I was involved in. And John Doe, spokesman for a Bible translation organization who shared with me in March of this year, confirms that a new translation of the Bible, originally published in 2007, is being undertaken now. The plan includes writing of the voiceless vowels of Borana, marking them with a line below them. A related language has already been analyzed linguistically and given an orthography which marks their word final voiceless vowels. The people are Muslim and their scripture use has been limited, but there is evidence that the orthography works for the Orma people of Kenya, and their literacy materials are used in grades 6 through 8 with no problems for the students, either in reading or writing their voiceless vowels. Now we go to another part of Africa, West Africa, where the languages Ga and Dongme are part of a group, a family of languages called Ga. They're Niger-Congo languages, and they are used in schools. Let's see it. If these nearly 2 million children will have a reading problem. The orthography gives the reader no clues to reveal the intended meaning of the writer if you look at the word spelled ke. We don't know which one means be tall and belong, or lift unaided, or move with, definitely, certainly, by all means, or and, or if. Ga readers cannot tell the difference in those. Both Ga languages have thousands of monosyllabic or disyllabic words like these, short words, but no meaning contrasts for nasality versus orality and tone. Without indicators of Ga's two-tonal contrast and 5 nasal vowel sounds, readers are at a loss to distinguish the meanings of those 2 letters. The same is true for Dongme, the sister language, which has 3 tones and 5 nasal vowels. So this Dongme child is also very frustrated with, there are hundreds in their lexicon of words like this, which look identical and have different meanings. There are some that have related meanings, but no distinctions are written. So page after page displays large sets of identical looking words like this. The fact that words are quite often short makes precise representation of the sound contrast carried by the vowels extremely important. When we see this many words written identically, there's underrepresentation somewhere. So I used Primer Pro's lexicon of 6,209 Dongme words and counted only identical sets of words numbering more than 4, and I found that the sample set of 8 identically written words here shown above was quite typical. 500,000 Dongme children need to be able to recognize their 3 tones and 5 nasal vowels in writing. Dongme, as you can see, also has a, e, o, and o. Dongmei also has the 3 tones, but none are written. You can see an example of 3 words that are minimal pairs for nasality. I don't even have tonal information, so I couldn't supply that for you. It was not available to me. But you can see here, SA has 2 different meanings, KA has 2 different meanings, and MA has 2 completely different meanings. If the meanings and pronunciations of these words are not distinguished, reading each Dongmei word becomes a guessing game. We had absolutely no clue as to how tone was to be used for those languages. Some speakers of both languages came to the Language Bureau and asked that their nasal sounds be marked. But so far, the people at the Bureau refuse to do this. I actually have a Ga-speaking neighbor here in North Carolina, and though he reads English fluently, he agonizes if he tries to read his own Ga Bible. He says he cannot understand it. Here at the top, we see the speech contrast. Below, we see complete ambiguity of meaning for readers. If you look on the right, in red, I have shown an orthography solution for simplifying the writing system visually with no distractions above the vowel. All they would have to do, because they have closed syllables throughout the language, is write an N at the end of each word, as the Malians do for Bambara and many others, with fine orthography success for readers. For tone, it could now be marked over the top now that the nasality is handled differently. What I remember is people writing personal pronouns and distinguishing plurals from singular by an abstract representation of what is a tonal contrast in speech. So for really frequent grammatical words, the Ga linguists have done a very clever thing. I have to mention that. Okay. We come to a third language with a problem. There are roughly 500,000 Ma speakers in Tanzania and an equal number of Maasai in Kenya. There has been a big move of God in their midst. So when 40 Maasai teachers, all of them Christians, brought their Bibles to a 3-week teacher training workshop, I was amazed and pleased. They requested to have devotions in their language, but all of their Bibles, including their 2 preachers' Bibles, were in Swahili. They said they couldn't read Ma. The language programs manager for BTL Kenya, a friend of mine, told me the same thing. All the letters are there, Leila, but we don't understand. We don't know why we don't understand. Okay, on the left side of this slide, you can glimpse 2 seemingly identical sentences. And down below, you see 2 seemingly identical sentences. Then towards the right, you see ang enye and ang enye. And you can see the pictures are different. One means homestead and the other means house. Then on the right, you see a baby, an identical word here, sere and empiron. You can't tell which is which based on the writing system. So I can tell you that for these here, I think I'm going to be able to show you in the next slide. Yes. Were those people getting access to a quality translation when much of the meaning is invisible? Now the meaning shows up because tone marks are placed where they go. And here, the subject and object are marked by tone. So Edolita Coco means grandmother sees the snake. Edolita Coco means the snake sees grandmother. If you look below at this little morpheme recognition activity, in the first example, the woman chases the hyena. In the second example, the hyena chases the woman. In these two pictures, we have ang and ye, and ang and ye. One means house and the other means homestead. Over here we have sere, which means baby, and sere, which means grass. Empiron and empiron, one of them is kindling a fire and the other is saying goodbye. Actually, I can't remember which is which. I could only say the contrasts are written, distinguished by tone. So the Bible Organization for the Maasai attended an orthography conference in 2013. And though the Maasai elders voted for tone to be written, this never happened in their Bible. This means that still, 10 years later, hardly anyone owns a Maasai Bible. And if they do, they rarely read it. One teacher I know, Gabriel Mayani, says he has a copy, but only uses it after he reads his Swahili Bible. So he sort of understands the Ma one. Then he tries to read the Ma Bible with more understanding. Consider the length of Ma words. Many of them are long, actually, with many syllables. Consider the subtle meaning differences if tone is unrecognized across a string of letters. The first word, areu, is 2 syllables, to drive cattle, where eu represents a vowel diphthong. The other one, areu, to drive cattle toward here, shows you that it's no longer a diphthong. It's really areu. The tone diacritics clearly distinguish meaning. In the second word, aidie and aidie, we get he or she will make me jump over it, or he or she has made me jump over it. So in this case, tense. The interesting surprise about the elders' decision that we only use 5 vowel symbols for this 9 vowel language, this decision they made reduced the grapheme inventory significantly. And yet, it turned out they were very wise. And I found this out from testing reading. I tested, children's reading was tested, but I also tested Maasai teachers' reading. And I interviewed people who said, yes, for us, we figure out the pronunciation of all the vowels very quickly. In less than a week, we're saying it like real Maasais and we don't sound like we're speaking Swahili. Something about their vowel harmony and the length of their words works for them. I wouldn't recommend that for everybody. So my Maasai teacher friend also says he continued, this is him on the right behind me in this one photo. He continued teaching his children to read Ma through grade 8, and his class had so many champions who won awards after taking the standard 8 leaving exams that they broke the local records at Nkaji Naibor Primary School for the Kajiado District exams. Let's hope and pray that someone decides to write tone in their Bibles and not just in a few literacy materials. So here I'm just showing you that children are taught to read Kitharaka in over 200 schools for 10,000 children. They have a good orthography. And we have massive popularity of the Bible. What should we do to change things? We should support comprehension and comprehensibility. We should evaluate our orthographies. Does an orthography represent speech closely enough that a speaker of the language can understand the intent of the writer? Test that, find out. How do people comprehend sentences? Number two, does it represent that speech simply enough that the reader is not overwhelmed with unnecessary details? You want just the right amount of representation. How smoothly and accurately do people read? And number four, can people accurately decode a text using their normal speech sounds and measure smooth and accurate decoding on the phrase or sentence level, or test whole word recognition? All of these four involve orthography testing, formal or informal. Does the orthography have enough consistency and visual simplicity that readers can recognize frequently occurring words and morphemes quickly? Measure their rapid eye movement. Some people know how to do that. Number 8, does it facilitate readers' engagement with text? Ask them questions like, how do you know King David was angry? What did he do that shows you that? Number 9, are people able to use their spelling rules to express themselves in writing? Give spelling tests to find out whether your spelling rules are simple enough, or whether people need more instruction because they've been exposed to English or Swahili for so long that they've lost their awareness of tone. They use it correctly in speech, but writing it is something else. So long-term, what am I suggesting? Bible translation organizations get help from linguistics and literacy experts so that scriptures are actually read. What help is needed? I would say linguistic analysis, systematic documented orthography development done alongside the future users who have a stake in this, and early testing to see if it works with readers using simple written narratives or small scripture portions. High quality training and mentoring of nationals in all of these areas. And SIL linguists and training schools need to make themselves available, and other organizations need to ask for help. I suggest that funding organizations insist upon this kind of quality so that Bibles that are unreadable are not produced anymore. By the tens of thousands, people attended this self-initiated scripture celebration about 2 years after they had received the entire Bible. Nearly everyone, says the retired Tharaka project leader, is literate now in their mother tongue. Thank you.